Title of this audio is Your Problems Will Never Go Away. And when I say your problems will never go away, what I mean to say is that you don't want a way out of your problems. And once again, the vein in which I'm saying problems are all the stresses and worries and anxieties that you have. I do not mean mechanical and technical problems like going from place A to B. Are you going to use Uber or Ola, or pushing your chair inside the table so that you don't stumble upon the chair and fall down. I'm not referring to mechanical problems that do have mechanical solutions. Why do I say that? What happens is, so let's say for instance, you are afraid of being alone, and the reason you fear being alone is, so let's say you went out for an outing with your friends to a cafe. Your mind first, irrespective of whatever it was occupied in, it spawned a thought out of nowhere, and it said to you, wouldn't it be nice to have a cup of coffee? And that sipping of coffee would only be pleasurable, or would be more pleasurable, if you have your friends. And upon that spawning of the thought, you called your friends and you made a plan and you went outside. You had the coffee and then you came back home. Now, once the dust has settled, once the high of that pleasure has gone, and you are now again back squarely at the same position that you were when that initial thought had spawned about wouldn't it be nice to go have an outing with your friends, the mind will again spawn a thought that wouldn't it be nice to do the same thing tomorrow, but maybe at a different cafe, because now the same cafes, same coffees, pleasure is something that I already know. So let me go towards a different cafe's coffee where I do not know, so that I can get the pleasure of that coffee. But there is a refractory period between, let's say, the time you go to sleep versus when you wake up, and then you go tomorrow again. So during the night, you'll imagine what you'll say to your friends, what you'll wear next day's outing में. You'll probably think of some conflict you had with one of the friends in your friend group जिसके साथ तुम कल कॉफ़ी जाओगे, and the mind will keep you occupied about the next day's coffee. And even if you go and do the same outing with your friends at a different cafe, when you come back again the next day and sit at the same bed that you were, your mind will again come and say, wouldn't it be nice to now go out to a cafe but with a different set of friends, because now I've had, quote, my share of pleasure with these group of friends, and I've had my share of pleasure having coffee at these two cafes. So let me change the scenario altogether and ask for more friends or different friends. So, and then you think about that group of friends. When someone poses a question as to, I feel so bored, how do I not feel bored? I feel lonely when I'm sitting by myself, hence to so-called fill my loneliness, I call my friends and go out with them, but the loneliness comes back again. And when someone poses this question to some other friend or to some psychologist or to some other stakeholder seeking for a so-called fix to this answer, they give them uh, ineffective words like meditate, be mindful, uh, you know, use this time to do so-called productive things instead, uh, work on some project, play some sport alone, sit with yourself and be okay with it. Like just some ridiculous answers to the questions that he may pose, and he will go and do those things and the problems won't go away. Now, the reason his problems won't go away is because he hasn't understood the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is that it seeks pleasure. That is its job. And because from all corners of the world, you are in some way, shape, or form chasing pleasure or running away from pain because you like the state that you are in when you are not in pain, which is again a pleasurable feeling, you devote your entire life to chasing pleasure. Now, I must once again put a disclaimer: there is nothing bad with chasing pleasure, and there is nothing good in sitting with pain. It's all stupid. The problem here is you will never satisfy the mind's demands, because like I said, the first time when you go out with your friends, it'll demand a new cafe. The second time it goes out with a friend, it'll demand a new friend group, and the third time it may go, it'll demand now your girlfriend instead of your friends, and it'll throw things, it'll spawn thoughts inside of you for novelty, and novelty will never be so-called quenched. There will always be more friends, there will always be more movies, there will always be more books, there will always be more things you can occupy yourself with. And once you have done and dusted with that pleasure, the next pleasure spawning thought will come. So you'll just either shift the thing that you're doing, or you will increase the intensity of that thing. It's hedonistic in its very nature. So if one recognizes that this mind will never be satisfied, and all the things that it makes you think is simply a reaction to itself, which is that it seeks novelty, it seeks pleasure, and no matter how much novelty and pleasure you seek, which you already have in your life, however many years you live, it will never be satisfied. It will give you moments of disillusion in the thing that you are pursuing. It will give you moments of so-called happiness when you are involved in the thing that you're doing, but after its short-lived lifespan, it will come again, spawn with the thought, demand from you another novelty seeking thing, and you'll go after it again. You'll spend your entire life, and even at your deathbed, you would be saying basically, wouldn't it be nice to yet live another day to explore yet another novel thing? So it doesn't matter if you live till 30, 50, 70, 80 years, and doesn't matter what health/financial condition those years were, it would only be interested in the next thing. So if you pose a question as to how to get rid of my psychological problems, such as stress, fear, anxiety, they are born, all these so-called negative emotions are born by the mind, because since it demands off of you the next pleasure to be satisfied, there certainly can be impediments and blockages and barriers to achieve that pleasure. And since there can be blockages to achieve that pleasure, the natural effect of that would be you would be afraid and stressed and anxious whether or not that pleasure will be satisfied or not. So let's say, I don't know, probably the mother of all problems, which is your death, as you may say. So let's say you know for a fact that you're going to die one day. Now you may know that intellectually, sure, not in your bones, and like it's not a heartfelt feeling. You don't really relate to that feeling. It's to the mind, it thinks that yes, everyone dies except me. That is its level of understanding. And so even at the last day of your death, it would vehemently scream for you to be occupied in something, because it knows its end is coming. The possibility of the so-called problem to come to an end is only possible for the person who realizes that his problems do not have a solution, because the mind does not want a so-called solution for its problems, because it wants to continue forever and ever and ever. And for its continuity, it'll throw you the magnificent thing called pleasure that it will make you pursue. Upon receiving that pleasure, it'll throw more curveballs in you, and it'll show you glimpses of the pleasures that you may receive from other things. And it will also naturally give birth to fear, anxieties and stresses, because like I said, in achieving those pleasures, whatever those pleasures are, there will for sure be impediments and barriers that may prevent you from achieving that pleasure. And those barriers would create an internal conflict within you, which will stem inside of you in the form of fear, anxieties and all the so-called negative emotions. So in many ways, in many ways, when someone asks fixes for his problems, he doesn't really need a way out of his problems, because who would he be if his mind disappeared?